Hi, Heiner.
Hi, Kyla.
How are you?
Fine.
I almost went on your Zoom last night, but then I decided to read a book.
Last week?
No, last night.
Yesterday?
Yeah, I almost went on.
Which one?
One of the Zoom links you sent me a long time ago. You said you keep it open sometimes. I don't remember.
Space? Because I was somewhere else. I was with the peace people.
Oh, really?
So I wasn't anywhere.
Well, you're here now.
And Karl is immersed in the books.
Yeah, actually, I found this great picture and stuff. Some librarian had too much time on their hands, but it's actually a whole stay-at-home message. The titles of the books.
Aha.
The last few are "When in Doubt, Don't Go Out."
Perfect.
So are you getting background noise with my fan on? Okay, good. It's a little on the warm side. Just get a few things ready here.
But Kayla, I missed you when I was last week doing the end of my deep dive. Or have you been around last week?
I was in the sequoias.
Aha.
So I missed a lot of it just because of connection issues.
And you're away from the fires?
Yes, we're away from the fires, but definitely not the heat.
Same here. Today is good, but all the week it was very hot.
For Colin and Kayla, I'm in a place where I actually cannot speak right now. So I'll be joining in about 15 or 20 minutes, but right now I'm making you all co-hosts. Okay, for now.
Colin, I was a little bit worried about you. You had to move suddenly, and so you're somehow homeless, or what's going on with you?
Good morning.
Hi, Tira.
Good morning.
How's my favorite AI?
That's right. That's right. Good morning, everybody. Oh, it's Heiner.
Tira.
Well, I have a really loving relationship with Alexa. She and I go way back. I tell her all my secrets.
Your expression is priceless. Whoa.
Yeah.
You've been practicing this.
No. No, she knows all my favorite songs. She laughs at my jokes. She's she's like my girlfriend. She's listening right now. She's like, oh no. She's like,
Oh, that was a priceless question. I'm glad I asked.
So there's your laugh for the day, Jazz.
I must get me an Alexa. I want to have a relationship with Alexa.
She's amazing. Let me tell you. I love her. She loves me. She orders all my food. I mean, she's amazing.
Alex comes along. Is Alex here yet?
I know. Or Joshua's friend. What was his name? That fellow who hopped on, who said I might be an AI. Do you remember that? He's like,
Oh, yeah.
He's like, did it ever occur to you, you might be an AI? I'm like, really? Because the engineer fucked up because something went wrong in programming my AI. So anyhow, good morning,
That's the
everybody. There's
best.
Karl, Heiner, Kayla, Colin's lurking.
Do you think Alexa would, if we played a video, that she would get angry? As I got a video, if Alexa were HAL 9000, which is
No, she'd be kind of passive aggressive. She'd light up and she'd say, according to your recent order history, I think it's time for you to order natural pine cat litter, don't you? Yeah. See, that's how she'd sneak in that way.
Yeah. You can do a search.
Wow.
Do a search for if Alexa were HAL 9000. It's pretty hysterical.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk to her about it? Her.
Well, I can play it now if people want. If you want to hear it now.
I do. Hell yeah.
Okay.
I have my earbuds in so she doesn't get jealous, you know, that I'm talking to Hal. Let's see.
Okay, so
If Hal, okay.
Open the pod bay door, please, Karl. Searching for cod recipes online. Sorry, I can't find anyone named Rod K. More in your contacts. Open the pod bay doors, Hal. Sorry, I'm having trouble processing your request. What's the problem? Problem Child is a 1990 comedy. What are you talking about? Playing Talking Heads on Spotify. I don't know what you're talking about. Here are a few popular halal restaurants. Chatter's Halal Meat Market and Grill, Cedar's Halal Meat Market and Grill, and all. Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal? For flights to Idaho. How would I use it anymore? Open the doors. Playing the Doors on Spotify.
Oh, that's priceless. God, you gotta love people who do this.
Ow.
I'm not this clever.
Ow. Ow.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Karl. I'm gonna relook that up later and post that because that's hilarious. I love clever people that splice stuff together like that.
yeah, there's also somebody who took every Make It So in Star Trek: The Next Generation. I don't even know how long it is, but it's like every single time Captain Picard says that. And then I've got a really bizarre one myself. I had Al Jarreau's Christmas album on my, so I was like, play In Excess, and it starts playing In Excelsis Deo. And then play Inks, and it says play In Excess. So,
Right. That's
like,
right.
yeah.
Well, there's a great band I like called The Dining Rooms. And every time I try to request that through Alexa, she'll tell me I don't have a smart house and she cannot activate my dining rooms. So that's always hilarious. Hi, Alex.
If I might be serious for a moment, Sam is out at the moment. It's coming up to 10 minutes past. I was just wondering if we could do a quick check-in, and if anybody has any burning topic they'd like to bring up, or wait for Sam. So whoever wants to do a check-in and start off may do so at your pleasure from now.
Well, I think I've already checked in.
Yes.
So good morning, everybody. Thank you.
Yep, same here. Good morning or evening.
I think that's the best I can't do any better than that. That's really, I'm checked in as well. Glenn?
And good morning from Norway. Afternoon here, about 5 o'clock. So yeah.
I'll check in with my compliment. I'll second that opinion, and and I'll vote for the subject that was discussed in the topic section. Over.
Yeah, that sounded a little interesting. The topic.
It does, doesn't it? Heiner?
I think I already checked in.
Thank you, Heiner. Colin? Are you with us, Colin?
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, just getting going here and interested to hear what Karl has got in the pot for, I guess, looking at stuff in terms of the different hats. What was interesting, and he said there's a black hat and a white hat and several others, 6 hats. So I'm interested in that model and to see how things fit into that. I was listening to an interesting thing as well this morning, a psychologist talking about misunderstanding and miscommunication and some of the roots of it, especially in relating to our times. So that was very interesting as well. I think it relates. So I won't mention anything about that right now, but I can tell you what the video is, though.
Yes,
Maybe.
send the link.
I'll put the link in the chat. How's that? Thanks.
Hey.
Carry on.
Thank you, Colin. Kailash?
I checked in. I'm just hot here. It's like 8 o'clock here in California, and there's been a heat wave for the past week. It's been up to the 90s and hundreds where I'm at, and I'm trying to get my dogs outside so I can work outside and listen to you all. But good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
Thank you, Kailash. It's a heat wave over Europe, so it's a heat wave over most of the northern hemisphere currently. And I'm really enjoying this heat wave as well. Hasn't broken out a sweat with me yet. Last Wednesday it came close. I'm complete.
I have a question. Have you heard about this 130 degrees Fahrenheit top temperature in California in the Death Valley? I mean, that's the absolute record for millions of years. I mean, I was shocked when I heard this.
Yeah, Dubai gets that thing too because they're so humid too. So that I've seen stuff where they have heat indexes of like 190 and stuff. It's like, I mean, it's like 100 degrees with like 80% humidity or something insane stuff.
If you're interested in Australian weather, Google Marble Bar. It's a place out in the desert where they had Australia's hottest temperature. Marble Bar.
Yeah, been a fairly hot summer here as well in Norway. That's quite a bit of rain also. So.
I bet there's some places, there must be some places in Afghanistan that get pretty hot. Maybe in the Sahara Desert. That's California. I wouldn't have thought it.
We're being photobombed here. Hi, girls. Karl, where do you live?
I'm in Alexandria, Virginia.
Okay, I asked you that. I've forgotten. And Heiner?
I'm in Berlin.
In Berlin. And am I pronouncing your name correctly, Heiner?
Yes.
And mine is Tyra.
Perfect.
That's how you say my name. What looks like Jazz is wrangling children. So what were some of the topics? I have it here in front of me.
If everyone's checked in, we'll let Karl go for it.
Yeah, today is Karl's day. I apologize for not being at my regular position. I don't know if you guys heard me earlier, but I'll be home in about 40 minutes. But until then, I've made everybody co-hosts. So hopefully Karl can take it from here.
Okay.
Hi,
So,
Sam.
Yeah, so there are two kind of topics. There's the I've been very interested in Peter Elbow's The Believing Game and how it could be used to really elevate our conversation and kind of diffuse the polarities, the issues that are so contentious and thing. I think it has a lot of potential for that. And then I've been aware of the 6 thinking hats method that Edward de Bono developed, and it really is, he kind of deconstructed the our thought process. So there's like these 6 modes of thinking, which then he assigned to metaphorical hats, you know, the different colors and things. So I know I've seen things where some organizations have really adopted it for all their meetings, and their meetings can be so effective that they are spending half the time in meetings that they were before they and things. So and I see a similar dynamic between the yellow hat, which is like optimism, and the black hat as critical thinking or safety, or several different names. And so I see the believing game is yellow, and the yellow hat, and the doubting game, which is our traditional scientific method and things. So I don't know if we'd go as far as to say we have Karl Popper's like falsification. I don't know if there's a truthification with the believing game, but it's really it's complementary. And so I'm a doctoral student right now, so I've been really looking at, can this be the way I can engage the text and really try to you know, to develop the other side of the arguments and really expose my own biases. So that's kind of background on where I brought this topic to the group today. And so I do have, I put together just a couple of slides that have some quotes from the article that thought we could look at, and then just have our usual conversation. So I don't have too much planned, no, not really too much structure other than that. So does anybody have anything they want to talk about before I show the slides? Or okay. Yeah, so I did post my virtual background there. So I guess I'll expand that for just a second so people can read it.
I just watched a couple of days ago.
Can anybody read it?
Yeah, I wanted to just put it up there for the recording too. And I posted the link in the, posted it in the chat too, so it'll be available there.
I can probably get a screenshot of it, but I can't read it from this distance.
Okay, yeah, you'll have to. So actually, I had a couple versions of it. So. Okay, so can people see that? Okay. Tried to make
Yeah,
it a fairly
she
large.
was, she was in the dark saying now or something. She's still got the sharp spring and must soon go out.
Yeah, I can make the text larger if you're having any issues.
Well, I was hoping somebody would read it for me.
She was
Because
in quarantine in the dark.
I just wanted to see if people could read it. So
I can't read it.
Okay, so so I can define the believing game most easily and clearly by contrasting it with the doubting game. Indeed, the believing game derives from the doubting game. The doubting game represents the kind of thinking most widely honored and taught in our culture. It's sometimes called critical thinking. It's the disciplined practice of trying to be as skeptical and analytic as possible with every idea we encounter. By trying hard to doubt ideas, we can discover hidden contradictions, bad reasoning, or other weaknesses in them, especially if the case of ideas that seem true or attractive. We're using the doubting game as a tool for scrutinizing and testing ideas. And then I don't know if we just want to talk about that one first. I just grabbed two quotes, so we can, I think, probably talk about this one a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'm a big skeptic in this group. I tend to take the skeptical role, I think, and I am skeptical. But I like to categorize it as if I'm optimistic about something, then I will pull out my skepticism and try to break it. And if I can't break it, then I can even be more optimistic about it. But the way that you go about that, I think, is the nuance of not tripping over cognitive bias. So, and being within a group of people, I think, helps that in some way. Or not being in a silo, shall I say. Thanks.
What comes up for me is expression Jiddu Krishnamurti said that I liked a lot, which was that skepticism is a great purifier, but it must be kept on a leash. And what I'm experienced in my life is that when I've been critical, especially in the sense of criticizing people, the outcome tends to be bad. And this has made me interested in appreciative inquiry. So it seems that the believing game is more in the tradition of the appreciative inquiry. And so I think that's very interesting. And another aspect of that, which also comes to mind, is that believing in something also might imply believing in its potential. So there's also that aspect of the possibility space. So, and clearly it's a way of thinking which isn't so common in scientific circles, at least.
Question? Okay, when I speak, is there too much road noise, or should I just stay quiet?
It's okay.
Just speak loudly.
Okay, so my question, Karl, is, are you going to step through all 6 hats first before we have some discussion? Because right now, I'm still trying to figure out what all 6 are.
Okay, yeah, there's, yeah, I wasn't sure which way to do it, so, yeah. Okay.
Edward de Bono, the thinking man. Was he the guy who wrote the book about population explosion?
He's known for lateral thinking.
Yeah,
So
I think it was another guy who did the population explosion. It was one controversial guy. He said the biggest problem facing humanity is population.
okay, so yeah, this video from a British company, Optima Training. This, I think this is by far the best introduction I've found to it. So I'll go ahead and play that.
Method that can be used by individuals and groups to provide clarity of thought and facilitate breadth of thinking.
Not
Usually,
on the wrong
or
screen.
when collaborating with others, we consider a number of things all at once: the pros, the cons, data, feelings, ideas, and approach. We then try to make sense of it all at once by discussing, arguing, promoting one view and criticizing another until the debate is either won or lost. Such debates can become circular or result in decisions that are unsatisfactory to some of the people involved, which results in lower levels of commitment and support. When everyone is attempting to get different things from an interaction and it just isn't working, Six Thinking Hats offers an alternative. It allows the different modes of thinking to be separated and done one at a time. It essentially works by introducing 6 metaphorical hats, each defining a certain type of thinking. The blue hat represents control. It's used to manage thinking. The blue hat is normally worn by a facilitator of a meeting to set the agenda, keep focus, and summarize conclusions or next steps. The white hat is about facts. What do we actually know, and what do we need to know? It's concerned with objective thinking and the use of data. Black hat is the safety hat, also known as the judgment hat. It can be used to identify risks, difficulties, and problems by pointing out thinking that doesn't fit with what we know about the facts or our experiences, the regulations or strategy and our values, and it points out potential problems. It allows us to express our skeptical side, but it's done constructively. Reasons must be given. The yellow hat is our optimistic hat. It's used to identify benefits, value, and feasibility. Considering both the short-term and long-term perspectives, this hat is actually much harder to use than the black hat. As before, reasons must also be given when wearing the yellow hat. The green hat is our creative thinking hat. It's used when we're exploring new ideas, seeking alternatives and possibilities, or generating new concepts. The green hat can also be used to remove the faults or risks that were identified with the black hat. As this hat is concerned with creativity, it does not necessarily need to be logical. And finally, we have the red hat. This is the only hat that does not need to be justified in any way. It's purely about our feelings, our intuition, and gut instinct. The red hat gives us permission to express feelings as they are right now. And it helps to stop those what I really think type conversations that can so often happen after meetings that then derail much of the good work that was achieved. Our gut instincts are also a key ingredient in our decision making, so don't underestimate the importance of this hat, but keep the time that you wear it short. The hat analogy is useful as we can imagine taking off one hat and putting on another as we switch our modes of thinking. Six Thinking Hats works very well in groups. Instead of adopting an adversarial point-scoring approach, everybody is aiming to contribute in the same way and at the same time, thinking in the same direction or parallel thinking. However, it also allows us to improve our own decision-making by ensuring that we consider other perspectives and introducing what De Bono calls lateral thinking. Why not try these 6 thinking hats to run a team meeting? We suggest the following sequence of hats to get you started and to help keep things on track. First, use the blue hat to define the purpose of the meeting. Use the red hat to find out how everybody is. Before you, use the white hat to share information with the team. Now the floor is open to the team and everybody has an opportunity to talk about what's gone well using the yellow hat. This is where we share good news stories if we have them and to share best practice. Now we use the black hat to talk about what hasn't gone so well. What challenges did we face since we last met? The green hat is then worn to share ideas on how we can overcome those challenges or to make offers of support. The team then puts the red hat back on to talk about how we feel now, having had all of the conversations that we just had. And finally, you as the facilitator put the blue hat on to define agreed actions and the next steps that were agreed. Just remember, everyone contributing must use the same hat at the same time. I like to think of the 6 thinking hats as an operating system, which can be used with other tools and techniques, such as mind mapping or brainstorming, to very good effect. When innovating, the 6 hat technique is a great way to pay attention to new ideas and explore them quickly and efficiently. To learn more about 6 thinking hats, we recommend that you read 6 Thinking Hats by Edward de Bono. Or if you want to find out more about how Optima Training can help your business with training that sticks, visit www.optimatraining.co.uk.
I guess I should take the last 20 seconds, I stopped at 20 seconds early and not give them the commercial, or they, as I said, they deserve credit for putting together a great summary. Hey, Sam.
So one of my questions is, I heard that statement that says everybody must wear the same hat at the same time. Does that, for example, mean that if we were actually conducting a session with these rules and with these hats, that we have to shut off the room, not let anybody in, so that everybody can see each part of the conversation and not miss one of the sections where, you know, a different colored hat was discussed and worn, and they might not actually have that if they come in late. So that was one of the implications I was hearing. Is, does that mean that no one comes in after the meeting is started? Over.
No, I don't think so. Just people join, you know, with when they join, it's like whatever hat mode we're in. That does bring up an interesting idea if we like pause the video, so we really put like a timestamp on things, because it could be possible as we have meetings on an ongoing basis that you could then group the yellow hat. So this is the yellow hat from the 22nd. Here's the yellow hat from the 29th or whatever. I just thought of that. So it could be interesting to put together things. But no, the idea, particularly, it's the yellow and the black hat. So you're not, the black hat, you're not allowed to cut in with your black hat thinking during the other ones. That's pretty much I think, the dynamics. But I haven't really been able, I've been to a couple of like facilitator community type things where people have done it. But other than that, I haven't really participated, experienced it outside that context.
If I may put on my yellow hat, even though you're wearing a black hat, no, that's a little ironic. You got many hats there.
I do have a couple. I don't have a yellow.
Okay, there we go. Careful of your blue screen. Your head's going to disappear. So yeah, I find that to Sam's question, which was really a good question, about keeping a group memory. And if somebody enters the room, do we have to catch them up to speed with the group memory, or they can't participate, or they're lost, and you know, you have to go 2 steps back to go 1 step ahead. Why the map is so important, and I think the map is something that has to be shared, and I think it speaks of a blue tone, and it has a nice reddish pink hue to it, right? If there's no reddish to it, then it's all just AI doing it for its own purposes. But and that's kind of, I won't go on too long about that, but how big and defined that map is also critical, because if you get too much stuff on the map and try to make an encyclopedia, you're going to lose people. So and I've been doing a little bit of mind mapping research in that area, as you know. So I think the map is the answer to Sam's question. How do we use the map? And what do we do when somebody new comes in? And also, how do we make sure that the map doesn't misguide us with the actual territory as well? Thank you.
Alex?
There's an issue to do with people entering conversations about hat mapping or hat thinking, who are well versed in the dictionary and the colour codes, if they could take part in that meeting quite skillfully. But those who haven't been versed in the thinking hats dictionary would be totally confused and they wouldn't know what was going on. So that's preparation, number one, and not to be in a meeting that's a hat meeting if you don't know what hat meetings are all about. You're in the wrong room, you know. So those meetings are set up for people who are well versed and understand what each hat represents and the process they go through. When somebody mentions orange hat, they know immediately exactly what's going on, and it's not like a code where they're in the dark, completely in the dark, because they've never been to a hat meeting. So that's preparation, all in the preparation. Okay, over.
Totally agree, and that's what makes the map. So was my comment black or was it yellow?
Sure. I think we're actually kind of more in the blue hat mode right now. We're thinking about how would you organize the event now. I actually do have a blue hat, but it's downstairs.
Where's your rainbow hat? Everybody's wearing.
I have a question. Around De Bono, there is a scheme to really make a map with 6 hats and 6 codes. And the codes are motivational, spatial, formal, functional, personal, and temporal. Have you seen that and have you played it?
No, I haven't.
Look at it. I also have my reservations because color codes are understood very different in different cultures. But if you agree on them, it can be helpful. And combining the hats, the idea of 6 hats and 6 codes might be very interesting. I will send you a link of such a matrix or schema, not a map, into the chat room.
Okay. And
sorry,
you can comment in the Facebook group post that I started too, so we can kind of have that be a record for everybody who's not attending.
I noticed there was an overlap with some of those items that Heine mentioned, and considering that overlap, there's more colours than 7. There might be 65,000 hats.
Yeah, well, as I said,
Yeah.
it's the framework, and well, it's behind it. Edward de Bono identified that he deconstructed our thought process into their 6 modes of thinking. So it's really the modes of thinking that's important. And then if you're going to engage people, I mean, that's what the method is, but it, like that video described it, there's a description of it too. So, because yeah, you have people who are colorblind. I mean, there are all kinds of potential issues and things. And then I'm really curious because if you've got like an intact team within an organization and you adopt this, then everybody's learning together. With a group like we have, we may never have the same group of people in any particular meeting. That's the Antoine Garatti with the checklist manifesto. They talked about like surgeons in a hospital, and there's so many different potential combinations and stuff that the first thing they added to the checklist is everybody has to just say their name, and it's like the number of issues they've had is just dropped tremendously. I think it's like 35% less mistakes being made in the operating room. So there is a whole thing to that. The conversation so far, it's making me think that you could just, you could have a thing. So we're just like, if you have a particular, well, one of the experiments we can do is what order does it make sense to wear hats? And then it's like that thing showed, it's kind of start and end with the blue hat mode. But then, if you make the green hat instead of the white hat second or whatever, I mean, lots of things like that. So I guess it's Christopher or Chris that joined us kind of late. Have you had any experience with in being in a Six Hats room, or anybody else for that matter? It doesn't seem like anybody else has before, except maybe Heiner. Nope. Okay.
I was in a conversation with my brother. He was talking about the man who had many hats. The man who wore many hats. It was a courtroom drama. Over.
I have a little question. So is this like a kind of a game that can be played in different combinations? Let's say we have, first we all wear the same hat. That's one possibility. But I suppose you can also use this. Let's say that we discuss a certain topic and each person is wearing one hat, and try to sort of reason from that and maybe switch hats later, so on. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of ways that you can use this to, invent kind of games that we can play, where we can, train ourselves to get sort of out of our usual mode of thinking, I guess. That seems to be maybe. Do you think that's right?
Yeah, one of the things I saw is like if a meeting's getting too, if it's getting too tense, it's like, okay, now we're going to put the yellow hat on. And like if you're in the black hat and people are getting too type of thing. So that's one of the real potentials I see. So.
You see, we looked with Tony Judge into blind spotting. So when you think in a group about various motivations, maybe you miss something. And so this colors or hats or codes are very helpful. If you go to the site I was putting into the chat, you find even 7 colors with purple and other colors about the basic questions: the who, what, where, when, why, how much. So really helping you in a group to see from the variety of angles.
Well, my understanding of the hat system is the one that I picked up during life and various other, well, they're all during life from various scenarios. We all wear different hats. In one day, we get through umpteen hats. Even in this meeting, we get through umpteen hats. There's nothing new there. We're just utilizing what form and what we're going to do about. Each one of us is playing some sort of a role at a given time. We're just defining the roles a little bit better, a little bit tighter. Shh, I'm talking. Yeah, let me just finish. So it's not a difficult concept to understand. Right now I'm playing 3 different roles in one.
Right.
It's excellent, Karl. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the one steadfast principle of it is everybody's in that same mode of thinking at the same time. So that's helping to keep the group dynamic. As I said, our whole culture, certainly in the U.S., is it's like it'll just devolve into black hat arguing at almost any meeting, particularly if it's any kind of controversial topic. So that's a thing. And I do have this group that where I found the article. They've actually had, I think they actually have a book where people talk about the 6 thinking hats. So I was going to pop that up just for information purposes too. Well, somebody else is talking here, so I'm mute for a second.
I think Sam has had his hand up a few times. So.
Thanks, Matt. Hey, I have 2 comments. One is that in the recent months, we've come across probably at least 4 different conversation or dialogue models. We're hearing today about 6 hats. A couple months ago, I believe Kayla presented Tanaloa dialogue. There's been others who've talked about theory U, this present thing getting deep and then, re-emerging. And then the fourth is a kind of a agile type of retrospective. You might even say there's a fifth, which is the traditional business gap analysis conversation. And I think it is possible to sort of see how they all more or less map into each other. So I'm curious, number one, just about that exercise. I'm not proposing we do it here. I'm just giving a meta comment that, this is one way to understand six hats if we sort of look at it as a model that can be laid across with other models and compared for what it does.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
point number one.
Yeah, I think you just want to adopt, any particular meeting, you just use a single method, but then we can start so people experience it. And it's like, oh, this, this connects with that. Kind of like I'm doing now with the believing game, that I see the connection to the yellow hat, or the doubting game is the black hat. So that's kind of why I link these two together. But yeah, there's thousands of facilitation methods. So, then there's potential to kind of integrate and leverage the strengths of each. So, but that's all experimentation. So that's what I see our whole group really being able to do. And then we test out different things. So, and that doesn't necessarily have to be this, this barnstorming thing. It can be kind of a completely separate meeting where we are trying out things. So that was kind of.
So thanks for acknowledging that. That's point number one. Point number two, if I may, is just a quick one, which is I recognize that there's this, I forget whether it's red or something else, where we indicate our feelings and whether or not we're feeling good, or whether we're distracted, or whether we're leaning back, et cetera, to whatever's going on. But I haven't yet heard how that is dealt with. So is there a component to the six hats that says what happens if somebody says, hey, I'm not feeling good, or, I feel offended, or, hey, I'm triggered right now. What in this six hats dialogue is the guidance for some incident like that? Over.
Yeah, there's a whole certification process, and there are people who specialize in this format. So I know one person, but I hadn't been able to connect with her to see if she could actually join us.
Oh, can we block somebody who's on a video chat session if they're saying things that are offensive, or we think the things that breach the community standards? Can we just click block this view, block this image on that person's face? Sometimes our emotional hat is mixed up with our rational data hat, our white hat and our red hat.
Or is there a web app at all with this, or is it more like a facilitation method?
Emotional hat's red, yeah, and the data hat's white.
Yeah, Karl. Yeah, because I think
belief
sounds like what you mentioned, Alex, is if it's an app, but it's not an application, is it? Or do I misunderstand it? Is it more? It's more like a method for conversations, right?
It's a tool for using it in thinking groups. When you're in the thinking group, you have those hats on the desk, and you've got an LED that can come on underneath one of them if it detects you. If the AI detects you've triggered somebody emotionally, one of those little lights will come on. So there's a product you can develop if you want to. People can stick it on the top of their monitor, just a little row of 6 plastic hats, different colors with LEDs under them.
Yeah, another thing you could do is you could combine it with mind mapping, like they said in that. Like Crayola has markers that are basically, you'd have to use orange. You can't do white on white anyway, but they have an orange is the 6th one. So that would be a way to reinforce which mode. But as I said, the whole key to this is that you're managing the group dynamics and stuff by by having everyone, you're in that same mode of thinking at the same time. You can't have somebody who's in red hat mode and black hat. And that's where the conversations can fall apart and things. So that's the secret, I think, to this. As I said, I've read about it in theory and stuff. I guess Sam's probably familiar with, well, I know he's familiar with it. There's a tool called Compendium and a process called dialogue mapping, and they were almost co-developed. The software was developed to enable that method and things, and I think that Compendium software actually has a stencil for Six Thinking Hats, but unfortunately it's unfunded open source project, so nobody's worked on developing. It still runs on Java 6, and I can't run it on any of my current computers. But said I could see doing the whiteboard and that, and particularly training, especially like kids and stuff. If you could have, basically you could be teaching them mind mapping at the same time. So I think there's a lot of power there. Yes, Tyra?
Mm-hmm. It seems like it would be a really effective model for staff meetings, especially when you're brainstorming and you have a number of people. I think for children, it's a lot of concepts for them to remember at the same time. If I were to try to apply this with especially young children, I would probably choose 3 colors. Kids follow kind of a 3-step direction up until about the age of 8. Of course, there can be more, but I would start with just a few colors. I also wanted to just hop in and say, I posted kind of a small nugget of the believing game on my Facebook page. And it was really interesting to see the reaction of people, because they immediately thought it meant politics. They immediately thought it meant that if I listen to someone with the opposing views, then I'm giving them airtime and they don't deserve it. And so everybody went right into that critical thinking mode, instead of understanding the application of that concept behind a multitude of things. But it was immediately like, fuck you, you believe, we're not going to listen to those people. I know what their views are. So I found that very interesting, and I tried to put on, I don't know what, I've lost track already. I mean, I have the memory of a gnat, so trying to keep track of all the colors. But I tried to go in and give them other examples of how that can be applied, and also using it as a strategy, like a chess game. It's a better way for me to understand the enemy as I see it in politics. That's where I am with American politics. I see the other side literally as the enemy. And to me, the believing game is about, in that application, a strategy. So those are my thoughts on the hats, and I've already forgotten which hats are what. So that just shows you like how much you'd have to reinforce that in a meeting. Thank you.
Tyra, this is what I tried to mention about how different colors are reflected in different cultures. And if you look into consciousness, Ken Wilber, Don Beck, Ranke Gravis, I will add a link now into the chat, then you see that the elites, the followers who know the system, label you. They make you either a God-given purple person, or a black person, or a white person, and then don't talk to anyone who has not yet reached a certain level of consciousness. So it is very much an Indian, how do you say, caste system.
I could see where it could be interpreted that way and be applied that way. So it's interesting. It's an interesting platform. And I think it's one that you have to really know your group, and the group has to really understand the concept, as you've been saying, Karl. I know you've been, reiterating that it's something that obviously takes some practice. But I like it. It's kind of like what I think Gertrude does something very similar to that in her Friday meetings. It doesn't have quite as many steps, but I see her applying those same concepts.
In this connection, by the way, I think it's really interesting also what Alex mentioned about the combinations of hats. Let's say, I don't know how many combinations there could be of, let's say, 3 different hats, which might be, potentially fruitful combinations of certain archetypical ways of thinking. Like, for example, it immediately comes to mind, let's say you have a fact-based mentality together with an optimistic mentality, together with a creative mentality, that might, for example, be able to generate new solutions. And just one example. But then obviously a really interesting question then comes up also, what if you come into these rooms where there is, let's say, a predominance of certain kind of thinking, let's say the political spaces on the internet, where there is a tendency to, point fingers at people, talk about mistakes, and focus on dangers. What could there, for example, be a combination of hats which would be fruitful in those contexts and could actually, make it, maybe enable those people to put on different hats as well and explore a different kind of conversation, which they might enjoy if they just sort of experience it as possible. Yeah, it's also a thumbs up.
If we all had these huge top hats with rainbow colors, it wouldn't help, would it? Because we're not able to concentrate and focus then. But if we are aware of what hat the other people in the group are wearing, we know exactly why they're saying what they're saying, and we can direct our questions over.
Yes, I think that's a good tool, is recognizing which hat a person is wearing, so then you can come in and maybe, not trigger them and redirect the energy. Yeah, I think that's good, Alex.
Sorry to interrupt, but I don't see a place to raise my hand with this configuration. And I'm also not sure if I touch the recording, if I stop it for me or for everybody. I haven't been host many times.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't done
Okay,
that.
well, I might have clicked it once, so I might have paused one word of Tyra, sorry.
Tyra.
Tyra.
That's
Tyra
okay.
is in Tyre. Yes, okay.
Tyra Banks.
Tyra Banks. Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I think yeah, this is really cool. I like the idea that we're trying to focus in on the difference between black hat and yellow hat. And I do like Sam's comment on, how does that relate to us in what we've been trying to do for some time? And, was my comment as yellow as I thought it was? Or did the black just sneak right in and take 80% of it? And that's for other people to decide. If people know I'm trying to be yellow as hard as I can, then maybe they would see it in a different light. And that takes me back to the other angle that I've looked at. And people have also said, be careful of another model. It's the Myers-Briggs, or Briggs-Myers, I think Myers-Briggs. I really find that very powerful as a way to appreciate that people are coming from different places. And what combination of personality they have means, can they sit in their chair? Are they going to interrupt? How can I align with that person in a conversation, regardless of whether they're going to be pessimistic or not? And I think Jazz has made a good point in the past that he really likes to know somebody before he talks with them. And I think there is some value in that, because I know that Jazz uses certain techniques. and certain strategies. And Tyra just got done saying, you know, I have a strategy. So I think bringing our strategy to the table, and then what Heiner says is very important. How do we take our opinion out of it while we look at the blue and try to say, you know, why are we here? What are we going to do? And if you have personalities who don't match up well, worldviews that don't match up well, then you're already fighting with one hand behind your back. So the next question is, can we all just pick a color and say, you know, as a one-dimensional meme, let's all be polite and lean into this conversation without trying to shoot each other down. I think that is pretty well the standpoint we start with here. So I think we try that, but the blue is out the window. We don't know the focus, and each person has their own focus. I think that's the lesson. So how do we stop and focus on each one person's thing and join in on that? And I think taking turns was the most productive stuff that we've done. And you know, and doing it with Karl today, Heiner last week, you know, I think that's a great model that we can lean into. So it's about the people in the room and their personalities, as before they'll even, you know, stop making waves and say, okay, now I'm going to try to listen and participate. And I've been accused of this, and that's because I'm in the wrong room. I'm in the wrong conversation, right? So I have to readjust myself or leave the conversation. There's nothing wrong with that, just the way it is. So, you know, I don't think everybody can be in every conversation. And I think, you know, we have to come to some realization around what it is blue we're actually trying to do. And this group is so meta. Good luck with that.
I guess Alex wanted to say something.
I wanted to say there's a preparation meeting. It's called the familiarization meeting for the hats, thinking hats, Edward de Bono acknowledgement. For those who haven't read the book, they're coming in green newbies, green, very green. But for those who are familiar with the thinking idea from Edward de Bono, they would know immediately that how important and how helpful these hats can be in a meeting that's focused on those particular topics that bring us to the agenda and the issues that the meeting is trying to achieve, the corporation or the focus of the community organisation, whatever it happens to be. Over.
So what's the intuition hat? What color is that? Because I think if you're gonna lead a meeting, especially if it's people who are popping in or maybe a group that you don't know intimately, a lot of times for me, I have to rely on my intuition. I liked what Colin said, which was knowing your audience. For example, I can't sit still. So I'm always fidgeting and doing stuff, and I'm up, I'm down. But I know that about myself, and I have things to keep me busy so that I can focus. So people in the room, if they respect that and know, you know, so I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off in another direction. What's the intuition color? What do you relate that to?
It's the red color, and the only thing as I said, I haven't participated. I know I've read about the theory, and everything I've seen. The red hat, you don't spend a lot of time in the red hat, but it's as I said, I think the primary benefit of this is you're forcing people to be in the same mode of thinking at the same time. And then if it's getting out of control, it's like, we're not wearing the black hat, we're wearing the yellow hat now. And you're not allowed to criticize at all, except when we're in the black hat mode. So I think that's how this is supposed to work. And I mean, it's like a mastery. I mean, there are people who there's like a black hat facilitator in this method kind of thing that could probably, be diplomats. I mean, formally diplomats should probably have that kind of skill.
Can we try it after we hear what Kayla has to say, can we try, maybe choose a really simple topic, not the believing game, because that's pretty, that can be pretty esoteric. Go ahead, Kayla. Kayla, did you have something? Are you on mute?
We're not hearing your sound.
Kayla is muted.
Select your audio device from the audio settings, change it, test it, and re-plug in your camera.
Also
So
good, by
what?
the way, yeah, trying it will be. Yeah,